Welcome to Thinking Deeper by 6-7. Today we are going to really challenge the absolute foundation of your reality. We're getting into this really provocative idea that if you can imagine God, you are not worshiping the divine. You're just worshiping yourself.
It's a deep one.
It's a dive into the, well, frankly, the terrifying possibility that your faith is actually narcissism.
Yeah.
That the ego is the first lie, and that religion, as we know it, is often just a fairy tale we tell ourselves to avoid the brutal work of self-knowledge.
Yeah, we're really dismantling the man in the sky concept today.
And replacing it with a rigorous logical demand to just look in the mirror.
It's a heavy confrontational agenda for sure. We're dissecting conversation between the YouTuber Dhruv Rathi and the spiritual teacher Acharya Prashant.
And this isn't a sermon, right? That's important to state up front.
Not at all. It's an intellectual dissection of Hinduism, spirituality, social reform. The whole mission here is to strip away the magic, the costumes, the superstition.
So the theatrics.
Exactly. And look at the raw mechanics of the human mind through the lens of logic and even evolutionary biology.
It's a huge transition. It's moving from blind faith to what you could call ruthless investigation.
Right. And to get there, we really have to start with the vocabulary. The source material spends a good amount of time on a word that, especially in India, carries a massive amount of cultural baggage.
But I think it's misunderstood pretty much everywhere else.
For sure. The word is Baba.
Right. And when you hear that, especially in the West, you immediately picture, well, what do you picture? A mystic in a cave.
Or, the more cynical view is a con man, someone involved in some kind of financial or sexual scandal. It's become almost a negative term in a lot of circles.
It's almost a pejorative, yeah. But the source material, it takes us right back to the beginning, to the etymology.
It does. Baba simply means father. That's it. It's an affectionate, respectful term for a father figure.
But that's where the simplicity ends.
It is. Because Acharya Prashant draws this really sharp, very necessary line between two types of fathers. First, you have the biological father.
The one who contributed the DNA.
The one who gave you the body.
Which is just a biological function. It's nature. It happens.
Exactly. It's a physical event. But in the Indian spiritual context, Baba is supposed to refer to the guide, the teacher, who leads you to the real father, the Parampita.
Okay. And we need to be really, really precise about what real father means here.
Yes.
Because otherwise it just sounds like we're swapping one sky daddy for another.
Right. And the text is clear. This father is not a deity. It's not a person. It's defined as Satya, which means truth, and Atma, the soul, or the self.
So the biological father gives you the hardware.
He gives you the hardware, exactly. But the argument is that he can't give you conscious existence. He can't give you the purpose or the truth of your life. He gave you the machine, but he didn't give you the, let's say, the operating system for liberation.
So the role of the spiritual Baba is to be the installer of that operating system, to bridge that gap. He's supposed to be the conduit, the one who connects the confused biological entity, which is you, with the ultimate reality of truth.
So in theory, the Baba is a bridge.
A bridge.
But in practice, as the source points out, the bridge is often a toll booth. Or worse, a trap.
A small chuckle. That's a good way to put it. Dhruv Rathi brings up his viral video on fraud Babas. And they get into why this industry of fraud is so massive right now.
And I think a lot of people assume it's a modern problem, like the internet created this, or we're in a period of moral decay.
And the insight here is really interesting sociologically. Rathi asks that exact question. Are there more frauds today than before?
And the answer is no.
The answer is no. Frauds have always been there. I mean, go back to medieval times, go back 1,000 years. There have always been charlatans selling snake oil or false hope.
The human desire to be fooled is a constant.
It's constant. So what changed? Why does it feel so prevalent, so in your face now?
It must be the scale, the media.
It's the sponsorship, the institutional validation. This is the critical point in the source material. Break that down for me. What does sponsorship mean in this context?
In the past, the educated elite, the scholars, the kings, the thinkers, they usually kept these superstitious figures at arm's length.
They saw them as, what, entertainment? Folk belief?
Yeah, they understood the difference between high philosophy and low superstition. They might tolerate them, but they didn't endorse them. They didn't put them on a pedestal.
But now?
Now, the shift the source identifies is that today, these fraud Babas have political and corporate sponsorship. They are being mainstreamed.
So they aren't on the fringe anymore. They're on primetime television. They're at political rallies.
When power validates fraud, the fraud becomes culture. And that makes it incredibly difficult for the average person to distinguish between a genuine spiritual guide and, well, a performer.
When the fraud is sitting next to the politician or the CEO, the fraud gets a veneer of legitimacy.
It gets credibility by association, and that's the real danger.
This whole discussion leads us directly into what might be the most challenging part of this deep dive: the definition of spirituality itself.
Right.
Because I think if you stop 99% of people on the street and ask them, they'd say spirituality is about spirits, the afterlife, miracles.
Ghosts, auras, energy, all of it.
And Prashant's assertion in the source is just blunt. He says, spirituality has absolutely nothing to do with spirit or the supernatural.
Which just sounds like a contradiction in terms, doesn't it?
It does. How can spirituality not be about spirit?
It only seems that way because we've conflated spirituality with mysticism. The argument in the source is grounded in, believe it or not, strict materialism regarding the brain.
Okay, I'm listening.
He says, look, your brain is a physical organ. It's made of carbon, water, neurons. It's a product of evolution. It is 100% natural.
Okay, I follow that. The brain is hardware. No argument there.
Therefore, anything your brain can think of, anything it can imagine, visualize, or project must also be natural.
Whoa, okay.
If your brain imagines a ghost, that ghost is a product of neural firing. If your brain imagines a heaven with golden gates, that heaven is a product of your biological conditioning and cultural stories.
So you can't use a natural machine to produce a supernatural output.
You can't. The supernatural is just a label we put on natural things we don't understand yet, or, more often, natural things we've simply imagined.
So there is no super, there is only nature.
Precisely. If you see a vision, that is your brain creating a vision. If you hear a voice, that's your auditory cortex. It's all happening within the known physical realm.
That completely destroys the magic show, doesn't it?
It completely dismantles it. And that is the point. If spirituality isn't about the supernatural, then what on earth is it?
It has to be something else.
And the translation he offers is self-knowledge.
Turning the camera around.
Yes. Instead of looking out at the stars or looking for ghosts in the attic, you look inward. You look at the machine that is doing the looking. You study the instrument itself.
You ask, who is the one who wants to see the ghost? Why do I want to see it? What is this fear of death that makes me need to invent an afterlife?
That inquiry, that relentless self-investigation, is true spirituality.
This really takes a lot of the romance out of it. I mean, people want the magic. They want the stories of the yogi who is 400 years old.
Oh, the source just mercilessly mocks that desire. There's a great anecdote about longevity. You know the trope, the Himalayan master who has stopped aging?
Of course. It's a staple of the genre.
So the story goes, a farmer sees a guru with a long white beard and asks a disciple, "Wow, is your guru 200 years old?" And the disciple replies with completely straight face,
What does he say?
"I honestly don't know. I've only been with him for 600 years.
That's brilliant. It's so sharp. It just highlights the absolute absurdity of it all.
But it also highlights our hunger for the absurd. We want to believe the laws of physics can be broken because it makes us feel like we might be special, like we might escape death.
But the rigorous spirituality proposed here just says, no, you will die. You are biological. Now, what are you going to do with the time you have? Deal with the reality of who you are.
Exactly. And dealing with who you are, that brings us to the whole cave versus the world debate.
Right, because the traditional image of the spiritual seeker is the guy who leaves everything behind. He goes to the mountains, he finds a cave, and he meditates.
And the source material argues that this is a huge trap. This is where he introduces the concepts of vidya and avidya.
Okay, define those for us.
So vidya is internal knowledge, understanding, the self, consciousness, the inner world. Avidya is knowledge of the world, understanding objects, society, relationships, the outer world.
And the argument is you need both.
You cannot have vidya without engaging with avidya. You cannot know yourself in a vacuum.
It's a powerful idea. Think about it. If you sit alone in a silent cave, do you know if you are an angry person?
No, of course not. There's nothing to be angry at. The rock isn't going to insult you.
Right. You feel peaceful. But that peace is fragile. It's totally conditional. It depends on the silence of the cave.
You only know you have a capacity for anger when the world provides a stimulus. When someone cuts you off in traffic, you only know you have a capacity for greed when you see a pile of cash you could easily steal.
The world is the mirror. If you run away from the world, you're not cleaning your face, you're just smashing the mirror.
That is a perfect way to put it. The resistance of the world is what reveals your true nature to you.
And this leads us to what is, I think, the most controversial segment of this entire deep dive. Because if the world is the place where we test ourselves, what happens when the world attacks us?
This is where we have to talk about the Fortuner versus Scooter analogy.
Yes, this is where the philosophy stops being abstract and gets extremely gritty. It's about agency, victimhood, and social responsibility.
The gloves come off here.
They do. So the scenario that Drew Rothy poses is this. A common man is on the street. He gets beaten up by a thug, maybe urinated on. Just a horrific public humiliation.
And to make it worse, the police do nothing because the thug is politically connected. The government does nothing. The man is, for all intents and purposes, helpless.
The standard human reaction is sympathy. He is a victim. The system has failed him. End of story.
And the source material? It doesn't quite see it that way.
It doesn't disagree that he's suffering.
No, it acknowledges the suffering.
Right.
But it rejects the label of helpless victim. It reframes the whole situation into something it calls victim empowerment. But it does so in a way that sounds very, very harsh at first listen.
It sounds a lot like victim blaming.
It walks right up to that line. The analogy used is a man on a scooter getting slapped by a rich man driving a Fortuner, a big, expensive SUV.
And Prashant argues that the scooter driver isn't just a victim of that one moment.
No. He says the man is a victim of his own choices over the last 20 years.
Okay, walk us through that logic, because that's a huge leap. The guy on the scooter did not ask to be slapped.
No, he didn't ask for the slap. But the argument is this. Who created the society where a Fortuner driver can slap a scooter driver and get away with it?
Well, we all did. The voters, the collective.
Exactly. The text argues that the scooter driver chose what he thought was a safe life. He prioritized his own small nest. He got a job, got a wife, had 2 kids, and he focused entirely on his own little circle.
He kept his head down.
He kept his head down. He said, politics is dirty. I don't want to get involved. He voted for the politician who offered short-term freebies rather than the one who promised long-term rule of law.
So the slap isn't an accident. It's not random.
The slap is the bill coming due. It's the physical manifestation of 20 years of public apathy. You cannot ignore the health of the society you live in for decades and then be surprised when the sickness of that society finally hits you in the face.
Wow. That is a tough, tough pill to swallow. It essentially says that by just being a quiet family man and minding your own business, you are complicit in the lawlessness that grows outside your door.
It directly challenges the virtue of the private life. We have this idea that if we're not hurting anyone, if we just mind our own business and love our kids, we're good people.
And this philosophy says, no, that's not enough.
And says if you mind your own business while the system around you rots, you are actively creating the conditions for your own future oppression.
In the source, Rathi pushes back on this. He asks, what can the little guy do? We only have 2 or 3 options for who to vote for, and they're all bad.
And the rebuttal is sharp. It's,
Yeah.
you only have bad options now because you strangled all the good options years ago. You prioritized immediate comfort over long-term freedom.
To illustrate this idea of being responsible for your own suffering, they use another analogy. And this one is, well, it's provocative. It's about HIV.
It is. But it's used to highlight the concept of priority. The argument is, if you are sick, let's say you have a serious transmissible disease like HIV, what is your primary duty?
To get treatment, to manage the illness, to not spread it.
Right. But what if, instead of focusing on your own health, you decide your #1 priority is to get married and have children immediately?
You're being incredibly irresponsible. You're spreading the disease.
You are replicating the virus. Now, apply that same logic to the mind. The source argues that most human beings are spiritually sick.
Meaning what?
Meaning we are full of fear, greed, confusion, ignorance. We don't really know who we are or why we do what we do. But instead of curing this internal sickness through self-knowledge, what do?
We rush to get married and have kids?
We replicate. We pass that fear, that confusion, that sickness down to a new generation. We create more confused people who will then create more confused people.
So the family man isn't necessarily a hero in this worldview. He might just be a carrier of the virus of ignorance.
It's a fundamental critique of the biological imperative. Just because you can reproduce doesn't mean you should, especially if you haven't done the hard work on your own mind first.
And there's a specific jab at men in this section, too. The text suggests that men often seek out wives they need to look after.
Yes. It questions the male ego's deep-seated need for dependency in a partner. Why do you want a wife who is lesser than you? who needs your financial or physical protection.
Well, because it makes you feel big. It makes you feel powerful.
And it makes her controllable. If she needs you for her basic survival, she can't challenge you. She can't leave. It's a power dynamic, not a love dynamic.
And the source ties this right back to the Fortuner driver.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
That same desire for control, that same dominance-seeking behavior you see in the home is the seed that grows into the thug on the street. It's all the same sickness manifesting in different ways.
So, okay, if we accept this incredibly difficult premise, that we are complicit, that we are spiritually sick, that we've built a society that allows the Fortuner driver to slap us, what is the solution? The source material brings up the idea of revenge.
But not revenge in the way we usually think of it, not the Hollywood kind.
No. And this is where we have to pivot to what the source calls the philosophy of revenge. Because usually revenge means an eye for an eye. If he slaps me, I slap him back harder.
Which, according to the source, is the absolute worst thing you can do. Not because it's immoral or mean, but because it's philosophically submissive.
Submissive? That seems counterintuitive. Violence is usually seen as the ultimate act of dominance.
Think about the logic, though. If someone uses violence to solve their problem with you, and you respond with violence, what have you just done?
I've accepted their terms. I've validated their method.
You've agreed with their logic. You have effectively said, yes, you are right, violence is the way. You have made the oppressor your guru. You are imitating him.
So you lose even if you win the physical fight.
You lose the war for truth. So how do you take revenge without imitating the enemy?
You have to change the target.
You have to change the target. You don't target the person. You target the ignorance that drives the person.
There's this quote from the source: "I will not only kill you, I will kill everyone like you, and I will kill myself." That sounds terrifying until you realize kill is a metaphor.
A metaphor for transform. I will kill the ignorance in you. The example given is the story of the Buddha and Angulimala.
Angulimala was a serial killer, right? A truly monstrous figure.
A terrifying one. His name literally means necklace of fingers, because he wore a necklace made from the fingers of his victims. He confronts the Buddha, intending to kill him and take his finger.
So Buddha could have used some kind of power, or had his followers fight.
Right, and if Buddha had pulled out a sword and chopped Angulimala's head off, he would have won the physical fight. He would have stopped a killer.
But he would have lost the spiritual fight. He would have just become another killer, using the same methods as his enemy.
Correct. Instead, Buddha used words. He used his presence. He compassionately dismantled Angulimala's rage and confusion piece by piece. He turned the serial killer into a monk.
That is the ultimate revenge. You don't just defeat the enemy, you dissolve him. You transform him into an ally.
And notice the final part of that quote, and I will kill myself.
The part of me that is capable of being like you?
Yes, I will find the seed of that same ignorance, that same violence in my own heart, and I will destroy it. That is total warfare against ignorance. It demands so much more than just punching someone.
It demands that you become a light so strong that the darkness around you has no choice but to vanish.
It's a huge responsibility.
Which brings us right back to the central theme. You can't be that light if you don't know yourself. You can't transform the world if you're just a bundle of reactive nerves and conditioned beliefs.
And speaking of conditioned beliefs, we have to talk about the biggest, most powerful belief of all. The one that billions of people center their entire lives around.
God.
God. And this is where the deep dive gets truly radical. We need to talk about why your image of God might actually be the biggest obstacle to finding God.
This is a huge section of the material. Let's start with the painter analogy, because I think it perfectly explains the trap of religious imagination.
It's a beautiful and really damning analogy. So imagine a painter. He takes a blank canvas and he paints a portrait. Maybe it's a beautiful, idealized face of a person.
Okay, a work of art.
A work of art. But then the painter falls in love with his own painting. He starts worshiping it. He talks to it every day. He asks it for favors. He prays to it.
We'd say he's lost his mind. He's gone crazy.
Or we'd call it narcissism. He's in love with his own creation. He's in love with a projection of his own artistic skill and imagination.
Okay, I see exactly where this is going. If I sit down and I close my eyes and I imagine God.
What are you using to do that imagining? What's the tool?
My brain, my memory, my experiences, my culture.
Exactly. You are using the data stored in your neurons. If you imagine a face, it's based on the human faces you've seen. If you imagine a powerful old man with a beard, that's based on archetypes you've absorbed. If you imagine a blinding light, It's based on the sunlight you've perceived.
You're just recycling your own past experiences to construct an image.
You're making a collage. So if you then bow down and worship that image,
You are worshiping yourself. You are worshiping a product of your own mind. It is pure narcissism disguised as piety.
that's the argument.
This is a devastating critique of almost all common religious practice. Most people pray to a he. They visualize a king on a throne, or a loving father, or some kind of energetic force.
And the source says very clearly, if you can imagine it, it is not God. Because the true divine, the infinite, the truth, whatever you want to call it, is by definition beyond the capacity of the finite human brain to contain or comprehend.
The moment you reduce the infinite to an image in your head, you've destroyed it. You've turned God into a toy that fits inside your own mind.
You've made God small enough to be your pet.
So does that mean all idols, all scriptures, all rituals are totally useless? Should we just throw them all out?
No, not useless, but you have to understand their function correctly. This leads directly to the bridge or boat metaphor, which is just so powerful.
The boat is a tool.
It's a tool. Imagine you need to cross a big, dangerous river. The river is suffering, ignorance, the human condition. The boat, which could be a ritual, an idol, a specific prayer, a scripture, is the vehicle to get you safely to the other side.
And the other side is truth, liberation.
Yes. But what do most religious people do? They get into the boat and they say, wow, this is a really nice boat. I love this boat.
And they start decorating it. They polish the wood.
They install a great sound system. They put in some nice carpet. They build a little roof. And eventually they decide to just live in the boat.
They never actually cross the river.
They never cross. They just float around in the middle of the river, arguing with people in other boats. My boat is better than your boat. My boat is the only true boat. Your boat is going to sink.
And that's holy war.
That's holy war. It's fighting over the vehicle. Meanwhile, everyone is still stuck in the river of suffering. The boat was meant to be used and then left behind once you reach the shore. But we have turned the means into the end. We worship the tool and completely forget the destination.
So if we strip away the imagination, if we strip away the worship of the boat, what is left? How does this source even define truth, or satya, at that point?
The definition is incredibly stark. It's almost Buddhist in its use of negation. Truth is what remains when you stop imagining. Peace is what you have when you stop wanting to be at peace.
That sounds like a riddle. Peace is when you stop wanting peace.
Think about the water analogy he uses. You only talk about water when you are thirsty.
That's true. If I'm perfectly hydrated, I don't walk around all day thinking, water, water, water. The thought doesn't even occur to me.
Exactly. A healthy person doesn't obsess over the state of their liver. You only notice your liver when it's diseased. Similarly, you only talk about God, you only scream for God, you only obsess over God when you are spiritually sick, when you are in pain.
So the goal isn't to be a person who talks about God all day. The goal is to be so healthy, so aligned with truth, that the separation between you and it just disappears.
Yes. It's about silence. Silence of health. Silence of no longer needing a cure because you are no longer sick.
That is a profound shift in perspective. It moves the entire goalpost of religion from worship to wellness.
A great way to put it.
But how do we get well? If we can't just pray it away, if we can't imagine a deity to fix us, what do we actually do? The source material proposes a curriculum, and it is not what I expected at all.
No, it's not read the Gita 100 times or chant this mantra for a year. Acharya Prashant lists 4 specific scientific fields that a true spiritual seeker must study.
Okay, lay them out for us.
1. Psychology. 2. Philosophy. 3. Neuroscience. And 4. Evolutionary biology.
Wait, neuroscience and evolutionary biology. For a spiritual seeker, that sounds like a syllabus for a college science major, not for a monk in a monastery.
But it fits perfectly with his core definition of spirituality as self-knowledge. Remember the premise. You are a biological entity. You are an animal. Your brain is a product of millions of years of evolution.
So if I don't understand how my brain actually works on a mechanical level,
If you don't understand that your intense craving for sugar is an ancient evolutionary survival mechanism, or that your fear of strangers is a leftover tribal defense mechanism, how can you possibly distinguish between you and your programming?
you can't. You'll think your programming is your soul.
Exactly. You will think, oh, my soul wants this cheeseburger. No. Your dopamine receptors, conditioned by millions of years of scarcity, want that cheeseburger. If you don't know neuroscience, you will spiritualize your biology.
You will mistake hormones for holiness.
That is a killer line from the source. Mistake hormones for holiness. And it argues that any spiritual person who ignores this science is just deluding themselves.
They're flying blind. You need to understand the container, the body, and the mind before you can have any hope of understanding what, if anything, is inside it.
Right. And to make this practical, because obviously we can't all go get a PhD in neuroscience tomorrow,
Yeah, what's the homework for the average person?
the source talks about simple self-observation techniques. It's about watching the machine in real time. The phone analogy is probably the most relatable one for all of us.
We're all addicts, so that should be easy.
So the practice is this. When the phone rings or buzzes, don't just answer it. For 1 second, just watch. Watch the urge. Watch the hand start to reach out. Watch that little spike of anticipation or anxiety. Who is doing that? Is that a conscious choice? Or is it just a conditioned reflex?
It's a reflex, 100%. And the wardrobe analogy, too.
Asking yourself in the morning why you chose a specific shirt.
My first reaction is, I don't know, I just picked the blue one. It's not that deep.
But the source says it is that deep. Why blue? To match your eyes. To look more professional for a meeting. To hide your weight. To fit in with the other people at the office. Every single tiny choice has a root in the subconscious.
The hidden master.
Yes, the subconscious is the hidden master ruling 90–95% of your life. And self-knowledge means shining a bright light into that basement and seeing what's actually driving the bus.
It sounds absolutely exhausting to be constantly questioning your own motives for every little thing.
It is exhausting. That's why most people prefer the fairy tale version of religion. It is so much easier to believe a man in the sky will fix all your problems than to ask yourself why you wore the blue shirt.
But the hard path is the only one that leads to actual freedom.
It's the only one.
Yeah.
And speaking of freedom, we need to touch on the ethics section of this discussion, specifically food and vegetarianism. The source takes a real swipe at traditional vegetarians.
It connects this back to the strength of the mind, right?
Yeah.
The argument is that if you're a vegetarian just because of tradition, because your family is Brahmin, or just because we've never eaten that in our house, your morality is incredibly fragile.
Very fragile. He tells the story of the boy who goes to college.
Right. A boy raised in a strict traditional vegetarian home goes off to college. He's never eaten meat in his life. But he has no deep personal understanding of compassion. He just has a rule book that was given to him.
And then what happens in college? He meets a girl, or he joins the gym.
And the trainer says, "You're weak. You need protein. Drink this chicken soup."
And the boy, without a second thought, drinks it.
Just like that, his whole upbringing out the window.
Just like that. Because his desire for a better body, for social acceptance for the girl, was stronger than his inherited habit. The source argues that unless your vegetarianism is based on a deep, conscious, personal foundation of compassion, it will crumble the moment a strong desire speaks up.
Compassion must be stronger than desire. That's the core takeaway.
It has to be a conscious choice, not just a default setting. And this leads to the free chicken wing dilemma. It's a great thought experiment.
Okay, if someone offers you free chicken wings and nobody is watching, can you eat them?
The source gives a very specific answer. It says, you can only eat them if you are a free man.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning you are 100% certain that eating this one wing won't trigger an addiction, won't slide you back into old habits, and won't cloud your consciousness in any way.
But the catch is...
The catch is that almost nobody is that free. We are all addicts in recovery from something. We think, oh, just one won't hurt. But that one taste triggers the dopamine loops, the ancient evolutionary programs, and suddenly we're sliding right back into the darkness.
So abstinence isn't about being a prude or being morally superior. It's about a realistic and humble acknowledgement of your own vulnerability to the machine.
Precisely. And on the flip side, regarding violent activism like, say, attacking people who eat meat, the source completely rejects it.
Why? I mean, if you believe meat is murder, shouldn't you try to stop the murderers?
Because violence begets violence. You cannot stop a violent meat eater by being violent toward them. You just increase the total amount of violence in the world. You are back to the angelimal problem. You become the very thing you hate.
This brings us to the nature of devotion, or bhakti. Because if we aren't supposed to be praying for things and we aren't supposed to be imagining a face in the clouds, then what is devotion? What does it even mean?
The source draws a hard line between transactional devotion and true devotion.
Transactional is the business deal. It's the negotiation.
It's the negotiation. God, I will give you this coconut if you give me that promotion. I will walk barefoot to your temple if you cure my mother's illness. It's bribery. You're treating God like a vending machine or a corrupt official.
It's using God to validate and fulfill your own desires. God, please give me what I want.
Which does what? It reinforces the ego. It makes the I even stronger. It's all about me, me, me. True devotion is the absolute opposite of that. It is the surrender of the identity.
Ego is the first lie. We started with this, and we're coming full circle.
We are. The fundamental philosophical stance here is that the idea that you are a separate, distinct, continuous entity is an illusion. It is a fabrication of the mind. It is a lie.
And because it's a lie, it takes a ton of energy to maintain.
A huge amount of energy. We build walls of lies to protect the first lie. We buy cars and houses to make the I feel important. We get angry when we're insulted to make the I feel right. We join groups to make the I feel like it belongs.
And religion, in its true form, is supposed to be the medicine that dissolves the I.
It's supposed to be the cure for the suffering that is caused by believing in that lie. But we have twisted it. We have turned religion into a tool to boost the I. My God is the strongest. I am one of the chosen people. My boat is the best boat.
It's tragic, really. We took the cure and somehow turned it into the poison.
And that is why this message, this whole deep dive, is so unpopular. It's so confrontational.
Which brings us to the trolls, the final segment. There's a crazy statistic in here.
It's unbelievable. At a festival, Prashant asked his own followers, these are people who had traveled, spent money to come see him, he asked them, how many of you hated me when you first saw me?
And the response, what was it?
400 out of 500 people raised their hands. 80%.
80%. That is a staggering rejection rate. Imagine a brand where 80% of your most loyal customers hated you at first sight. Why? Why that reaction?
Because he attacks the lies. And we love our lies. Our lies are our identity. If someone comes along and tells you that your diet is violent, your politics are apathetic, your family structure is based on control, and your God is just a projection of your own narcissism, you don't feel enlightened.
You don't feel grateful. You feel attacked. You feel like he's punching you in the face.
Of course. Men feel he's attacking their traditional control over women. Meat eaters feel judged. People who are proud of their caste feel threatened. He is shaking the very foundation of the house on the bridge that they've built for themselves.
But his response to all that hate is interesting. He doesn't get angry or defensive.
No, he finds it amusing. He compares the trolls to children throwing tantrums. His perspective is, I am not attacking you. I'm attacking the sickness inside you. I'm trying to remove the cancer. You're screaming because you think the cancer is part of you.
And he believes that even the hate is a form of engagement.
That's the key. If you hate him, you are listening. You are engaged. And if you are engaged, there's a tiny crack where the light can get in. He says, I will turn that hate into love. It's the confidence of a doctor who knows he has the cure, even if the patient is kicking and screaming and refusing to take the medicine.
So bringing this all together, it's been a journey. We've covered everything from fraud babas to neuroscience, from the philosophy of revenge to the narcissism of prayer. What is the final essential takeaway?
I think it has to go back to the boat.
The boat on the river.
It's the question every single person listening needs to ask themselves today, honestly. Are you rowing, or are you just decorating?
Are you using your beliefs, whatever they are, as a tool to cross the river of suffering? Or have you just built a comfortable, self-righteous, cozy little house on the bridge and decided to live there forever?
Because if you're stuck in the boat, arguing about the paint color of the boat, you are missing the entire point of existence. The point is to cross, to get to the other side, to leave the boat behind.
So leave the I behind.
And to find out what's on the other side.
And the final warning from the source.
And remember, if you can imagine what's on the other side, you haven't reached it yet.
That is a powerful place to leave it. Stop imagining, start knowing. This has been Thinking Deeper by 6-7.
Keep questioning.
See you next time.